Hi, I'm Bree, the owner of Itty Bitty Berry, and I'm going to do a market breakdown for you guys today. You guys just seen the vlog footage, and now I want to talk a little bit about the market itself. So the market itself was from 9 to 1, so a 4-hour market, and I paid $50 for my booth spot. So I want to talk about kind of what went on through the day, customer interactions, and those kinds of things. So for customer interactions, I had lots of good customer interactions, of course. I always love meeting my customers. I like meeting them face to face and talking to them and building those connections. I have lots of returning customers. I got to talk to this one really sweet family. The mom and the 2 sons and a grandma came, and they bought some little things, and the mom and the sons went to go look at something else, and the grandma stayed, and she was talking to me and telling me about her friend who lives in California and that she used to crochet but no longer could due to some hand pain. And she just kept going on and on about, she's like, "You're so cute, you're so adorable." And then she's like, "Can I take a picture of you?" And I was like, "Oh, sure," because I was like, what's the harm in it? But she was so sweet, and she just kept talking to me and all about crochet and stuff. And then I got to see some people I used to vend in the mall, but that store unfortunately closed down. So I did get to see them again. So that was nice, and talk to them and see how they were doing. I also had another family come, and I have those slinky worms that you would have seen me show in my video before, and some kids were playing with it and it got tangled. I did not see it happen because I was talking to other customers, but thankfully the dad came over and had showed it to me, and he's like, "I just want to pay for this because my kids broke it." And so that was very nice of him, instead of, you know, most people would have just thrown it back in the bin and I would have discovered it later. So I was very thankful that they brought that to my attention. Something that I did find that went really well this time, I did it last time as well, but did not notice as much interaction with it as I did this time. I did the Misfit bin, which I got that idea from the Celestial Homebody, also here on YouTube. But it's just a little tag that says Misfit bin. These items are one of a kind, they need a home, something like that. And I've been putting plushies in there that I've had for a while and I just want to get rid of. Sometimes I don't even put them out on the table because I've either had them for too long or I don't like the way they look or something like that. And I actually did sell some things from that bin, and I have lots of people looking through it. I have a goose that's in that bin that I accidentally forgot to stuff. I thought it was supposed to be like a snuggler, but you were supposed to stuff it. So it just kind of looks like a dead goose. Lots of people were talking about that and looking at it. So that made me happy because I would really like to see that thing just gone and move on. So I did get to go visit some of the other booths. There were some other crochet booths there. I have some friends who are crocheters that vend there, and so I got to talk to them a little bit. I did make a few purchases, as you've seen in the video. I got some macaroons or macarons. Those were really good. And I also got some free samples of some handmade dog food, and my dogs loved those. So I'm hoping to see her again and maybe talk to her some more about that handmade dog food for my dogs. And then I also got to have a peanut butter and marshmallow crepe. That was really good, but it was huge. It was like the size of my head. I didn't even finish it all, but it was really good. I had never had a crepe before, and I thought they were only desserts, but they had a lot of like they had like a pepperoni and cheese one, a ham and cheese one, but I wasn't sure if I would like those because in my mind, a crepe was a dessert. So next time I'm going to have to try those. I want to talk about the title of this video being Market Horror Stories. What happened during this market that was a little bit crazy? So sometimes during markets, you do have those interactions that are unfortunately not so great. They rarely happen, and the good way overtakes these bad ones. But it was a little frustrating, and this was just one of the things that happened during the market. I've had plenty of rude comments. I generally am like, okay, whatever. I have lots of customers who do love my items. And there's only a few that I can actually remember that's happened my entire time selling, but this one kind of bothered me a little bit. So this family came, and the mother, the daughter, and the father, and the mother and the daughter, they're shopping, they're just talking about how cute is everything is, nothing bad to say. And the dad is like, hey, not to be rude, but I just want to tell you there's a booth over there selling the exact same possums you have for $5 and you're selling them for $8. So not to be rude, I just want to tell you that these are $8 and those were $5. And he's like, actually, let me show you. And he pulls it out. It was a different pattern and everything and not the same possums. He's like, but yeah, they're $5. And I was like, okay, yeah, thanks. I was nice about it. I was like, oh, okay, well, thanks for telling me. And he just kept going on and on about that. And unfortunately, that's something that has been going around in the crochet community. If you've been watching some crocheters on YouTube, when you are a newer crocheter, or if you're just doing this for fun and you're selling, please price your things appropriately, because it affects people who are crocheting as their job. When we have to price things for, it's our job, that's how we make our money. And then when somebody else is underselling their crochet, it devalues it and makes it look like I'm scamming people or overcharging people because my item is more. I count my time. I only charge $10 an hour for my time. I know that is not the best and I should charge more, but that's just in my area where I sell at. I'm in a rural community. That's just what I sell at right now. And then I take my time and then I weigh my materials and bring it down to the exact number. A possum cost me $5.01 to make. So if I sold them for $5, I would be losing money. And I also put, now you may be wondering, okay, if it costs you $5.01, why are you charging $8? I charge $8 because I have to cover my booth fee. I have to cover bags, business cards, gas, food. I have like my Shopify, my Square fees, like all of those things are those extra little fees and businesses that sometimes people forget about that also need to be covered. Because if you're running this as a business to make money, you need to make sure your costs are covered. So unfortunately, I can't sell my possums for $5. I just can't, and it's hard when other people are underselling their crochet and devaluing it. I know that some people just don't know, but I really want to get that out there that please make sure you're valuing what you're making. Even if it's just a hobby. Even if you're just selling it to get yarn costs back, please remember that other people are doing this for a job, and we don't want to undervalue crochet because it is an art form and it is important. So that was kind of a little disheartening to me, not only because of the interaction, just because of that whole thing in general. The family still ended up buying stuff from me. It was more of the dad who had the problem. The mom and the daughter did not care whatsoever. And that was just one thing that happened. The other thing that happened was we're packing up. I'm packing up all my stuff, and my husband goes to get the car to move the car closer to load it up. And he comes back and he's like, "We have a problem." And I'm like, "Okay, what happened?" And he's like, "I left the keys in the car." So unfortunately, he left to go run some errands, and he came back about 2 hours from the end of the market. So the car had been running for 2 hours. And now the car won't start because the car had been left on. So he's like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, okay, well, we're going to have to ask somebody to jump it. So I went to the market organizer first and asked her if she knew who I should talk to. And she was like, oh yeah, actually we can get that problem fixed for you. And she uses her little radio to call the police officers on site, because at this market, they have 2 police officers on site every Saturday that they do this market. So they had all the stuff that we needed and were able to jump the car. So they jump to the car and it starts and stuff, and they're like, okay, well, who owns this car? I'm like, I do, it's my car. And they're like, well, come here. I'm like, okay. And they show me the battery, and they're like, your battery is shot. You cannot be driving this. You need to drive this to the nearest auto shop and get a new battery, like, now. So I was like, oh, okay. So we packed up all the market stuff, and yeah, unfortunately that was a little bit scary and stressful. Everything by the end of the day ended up being fine. It was all okay. We got everything taken care of. Everybody was safe. You know, accidents happened. We're sleep deprived parents, you know, accidents happen. It was fine by the end of the day. But yeah, there was some interesting things that happened at this market for my first market of the year. So now let's get into the reports and what I sold and how much I made. And so into how much we made, I have my computer in front of me, so if I'm looking down, that's why I'm looking at the reports from my computer. So for gross sales, we had $420. Now for a 4-hour market, I count that as good, because if I'm making $100 an hour at a market, that's good to me. I mean, at a 4-hour market, you're not going to make thousands of dollars at a 4-hour market. Now, if you're doing like a convention or something, you might, but at just a market, you're not really looking at that kind of money. So to me, $100 an hour, I call that a good market, especially for it being winter time. You know, usually after Christmas during the winter times, things can be kind of slow. We sold 28 items, or not 28 items, we had 28 sales. And I don't know if I showed them in the video, but something else I did new this time was I actually have some right here that I haven't cut out, these little discount cards, and I will have these on my Etsy if you guys want to like customize something like this. I have a little template, but it just says, thanks for stopping by, come back for 10% off your purchase. So I gave these for those moments when people are shopping and they're with their kids and they're like, you know what, let's look around before you make a decision. I would give them one of these cards, so that way, after they're walking around and they're like, okay, we saw these things that we liked, my information is in their hand with a coupon, hoping that that would bring them back to purchase from me. Now, I gave out about 6 of these, and I think I had about 3 or 4 people come back. This was my first time trying it, so I don't know for sure whether those people were already 100% thinking on coming back, because some people I gave it to 5 minutes later, they came back. So that I think they were already planning on coming back, and some people I'm not sure. So I'm going to keep trying these out and keep seeing how they do. But because of those 10%, the 10% off coupons, I did $4.21 was discounted. Net sales was $415.99. Okay, so out of card, we got $200.19, and cash was $215.80. And then our Square fees was $7.14, leading to our net total being $408.85. So that is a good market for me. I do charge people who do card 10 cents on their card fee because of Square's fee. I try to minimize the cost of my business, and I've never really had people complain about it. I had one person mention it, but they weren't really complaining about it. They were just more like laughing, like, oh, you know, these card things, you know. So I've never really, it's on my sign that there's a 10-cent fee for cards. So I've never had problems with that. For the top 5 items that sold the best, I had a yawn there, were number 1 was my characters. So I sold $80 worth of characters. Second was my animals on swings. I sold $50 worth of those. Third was the Sleepy Stitch for $40. And these go by price, not by item of number sold. So it's kind of hard to gauge like number of items versus the price. And then my $8 items, I sold $36 worth of, and $5 items, I sold 30 of. So now let's get into what sold at a time. So first I had, the market started at 9, so I didn't get my first sale until 9:21, which was a little concerning at first because I'm like, 20 minutes into the market, we still haven't made a sale. That was making me a little nervous, but I was trying to remember it was winter time, and it did pick up later. So at 9:21, we sold a bird and then the card fee for $10.10. At $9.47, we sold a swinging animal and a Demogorgon for $22. At $9.59, we sold two $5 items for $10.10 because that was a card again. Now, unfortunately, with the $5 items and the $8 items, I just put 5 and 8. I don't exactly remember which of what they were that sold. At $10.11 was one of the dinosaurs and an egg for $12. $10.12 was a Sleepy Stitch and then the card fee for $40.10. $10.16 we sold an $8 item for $8. At $10.17 we sold a Demogorgon for $12. So like an hour into the market, both Demogorgons are gone. The Sleepy Stitch was gone. I had a little girl who was obsessed with it. She kept coming back. Because in the vlog you'll see that I was like, oh, we almost sold it. Well, then that little girl came back and she actually bought it. At $10.24 we sold a $5 item, a Fruit Spider, and an $8 item, all on card for $30.10. At $10.37 we sold an item out of my Misfit bin for $10. And that was a squid, a mini squid. At $10.38 we sold another dinosaur and an egg for $12. At $10.40 we sold one of the characters for $9. That was somebody who came back with a discount card, so that's why it was $9 instead of $10. At $10.56 we sold an Axolotl and a Minecraft bee for $19.80. That was another person who came back with a 10% card. At $11.02 we sold one of the mini Blueies for $8. At $11.07 we sold an $8 item, and then we had the card fee for $8.10. $11.09 we sold a swing animal on card for $10.10. $11.22 we sold another character on card for $9.09, so that was another 10% off coupon. $11.23 we sold a bird and a turtle for $20. $11.31 we sold a $5 item, a character, and then the card fee for $15.10. $11.41 we sold a $5 item and another character for $15. $11.42 we sold another character and an animal on a swing for $20. $11.43 we sold a character and the mini Bluey on card for $18.10. $11.48 we sold a $5 item and $8 item, and then on card for $13.10. And we sold the dumpster at $11.58 for $8. $12.16 we sold a duck, a swinging animal, which the duck was one of those little rubber ducks, a swinging animal, and a possum for $26. $12.16 we sold a loaf cat for $12. $12.18 we sold a character for $10. $12.33 we sold a character on card for $10.10. $12.48 we sold an animal on a swing, a skunk, and a card fee for $18.10. So that was the only skunk that sold the whole day, and I was so disappointed because I loved those skunks. I talked about it in my last video that I thought they were so cute. I thought they were going to sell well, but they didn't. That was the only one that sold, and I only sold one possum. I think the possum was because of the other person having cheaper possums. So maybe that affected the skunks too, I'm not sure, but I also didn't sell very many of those rubber duckies either. And that was the last sale of the day. The market ended at 1 and my last sale was at 12:48. Sometimes my sales end a little bit early because usually a little bit early I tend to go walk around the market and then just leave my husband at the table, so then I don't really sell as many things because I'm wandering around. But yeah, like I said, I didn't sell very many skunks, possums, or the ducks. I think I only sold one of each, unfortunately. Maybe the $8 price tag was too high that I put on those. The possums I've always sold for $8. The skunks and the ducks were new, and I was originally planning on selling them for, the skunks I was between 7 and 8, and the ducks I was going to do 7. But the rack that I put them all on, I was like, you know what, it would just be easier to put $8 at the top, and everything on this rack is $8. Also, I put that rack on the end of the table facing people walking, and I thought that would grab people's attention. However, I noticed that people come into the booth, look at the things, and didn't see that rack until they were leaving. So it could have also just been the position of the items. because that really does matter, because the little interactive eggs, I had those in front of the register at first and people weren't really noticing them. Well, then a shelf opened up on my grid wall and I moved them over there and then they sold. So position is everything. If something's not selling at your market, move it, display it different. Don't be afraid to change your display during the market when you have downtime, because that might completely change how things are selling. So that is everything that sold at my market, what happens, the good and the bad. But overall, I still had a really good day. I loved meeting people, and I think that we did good for sales. So I still think it was a good market, even though we had some issues and some oopsies. But thanks for watching, and I hope you come back to see more videos. Bye! Awesome.